Listeners, this is just Drew and I today, as our producer Robin had another commitment. Robin is dying in her editing suite right now as she hears this. What do you got, Drew?
What's up, podcast listeners? It's Andy and Drew back for another episode 55 of the What's Up Casselberry podcast. Hey folks, we're so glad you're here. Andy and I are Casselberry residents, local pastors, dear friends who love to have casual conversations on this podcast for the good of you and the people of Casselberry and our surrounding communities. We talk about Casselberry related issues and things regarding Seminole County, Florida, and we love to have guests and friends who are involved here in our community. Andy, I need your help. Because as of this recording, as it goes live, I will be in Tennessee. I'm a Florida boy. I see the temperature is like 40 degrees. You're from a cold weather climate. Help me. What can I do?
I don't want to overshare, Drew. I don't want to overshare. But over Christmas, I was in a very cold part of the country. So much so that I had to go and buy some long thermal underwear. And I would not make this offer to anybody. But if you want to borrow them, I have washed them and you can use them as you go to Tennessee.
Nice. That's the ticket, huh? Get warm from the inside out.
I gotcha. I was at Walmart or Target, wherever, buying them. And I thought, man, this feels like such a weird thing to do, but I don't want to sound like an old man or a Florida boy from a hot climate. But when I put those things on, it was like a whole new world of warmth opened up to me. So that's what I would encourage. The other thing I would suggest taking with you, Drew, is a good book. I am super excited today that we have our first author on the show, and I look forward to reading her book. And I'm excited about the show as well, because I think she talks about some very vulnerable things that many in our culture and society and community have dealt with. And I'm excited to read her book. So here's my counsel for your trip to Tennessee.
Okay.
Take some long underwear and a good book.
Excellent. How about a dad joke? Listeners, you ready? Here we go. Whoever stole my copy of Microsoft Office, I will find you. You have my word. There it is.
Drew, can I just say that joke did not excel in any way, shape, or form?
Robin, you don't have to publisher it.
Yeah. Drew, you keep talking like this. I'm going to give you some PowerPointing.
Well, there you go, folks. There's our dad joke of the week on the What's Up Casselberry podcast.
Depending on how Robin is feeling, this could be a very short opening section. Please keep our jokes in, Robin. People like them, we think.
That's right. At least maybe somebody does somewhere.
Well, we do. That's what we mean, Robin. We do.
Yeah, we do. Well, folks, something that no doubt people are excited about, or at least looking forward to learning more about, is in our community, the Deer Run Golf Course. The Deer Run Golf Course, if you're unfamiliar, is a part of unincorporated Casselberry. Right behind my house, in fact, is Eagle Circle. And there has been, for a little while now, the golf course has been closed and has currently under new ownership. And there's much discussion on keeping that valuable property undeveloped, keeping it from becoming homes being placed on the property. And Andy, you shared a story this week on News 13 that the Deer Run Golf Course owners are currently putting any sort of development plans on hold. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it seems like there's some real positive momentum. I believe there's been even more meetings last week that suggest that there may be some other options and that golf course and that green space is not going to be developed on. And I am really, really encouraged by that personally, because I love to walk that golf course. Secondly, because once you lose green space, it's really, really hard to get it back. And Seminole County is known because of its green space and its trails and its parks. And I'm a big fan of keeping as much as we can. But the third reason I'm really excited about this is that I'm so proud of that Deer Run community and the different associations there. They were faced with a challenge, and they've organized well, and they've advocated well. And it looks like that there's some hope that they may win this battle, and at least part of that land will remain as green space. Yeah, I'm really encouraged by what's happening. It's not a done deal at all yet, and there's many twists and turns ahead, I'm sure. But I'm a big fan of Save the Green Space in our county, and it looks like that there's enough voice and change to maintain that.
That's right. And, it does sound like that there, of course, with any decision, there's economic influence and impact on whatever decision gets made. And that is significant in this case. There's the opportunity to bring more residents in to our community, but also to better care for our existing residents. And so weighing the pros and the cons, a couple of folks mentioned here, Seminole County Commissioner Bob Delary is quoted in the article talking about the importance of saving and utilizing water as a natural resource that's found underneath there, the golf course there in the aquifer to service our community for many, many years. And so another thought, in addition to keeping things green, is to help conserve water by having it be spread out and kept longer for the use of our current residents.
I did, just to say as well that what happened in the city of Casselberry has perhaps shown Seminole County that this is a legitimate track to go. The city of Casselberry had a similar issue a few years ago when there was talk of developing the golf course in our city. But the city came in and says, no, we'll buy it, we'll preserve it, we'll hire some folks to run it as a golf course. And now Casselberry Golf Course is great and it's profitable. And I think other governments, in this case, specifically Seminole County, are looking at that and saying, we don't have to sell this to developer. There are some profitable ways that we can keep the green space and creating a win-win for everybody. So kudos to the city of Casselberry for being a trailblazer and creating a model that now other areas are not just using, but benefiting from.
I like that. And good use of the word trailblazer. Nice little pun thrown in there. We'll keep you up to date on Deer Run and all that goes into the conversations there on the development project or the lack of development. Well, speaking of things that are happening locally, we love celebrating those who are about the work of making this community the very best it can be. Here on the podcast, we celebrate every month our community member of the month. You can cast your vote for next month's community member. Recently, John Jones was elected January's member of the month. We're just about to wrap up voting for the month of February, and we will determine who is February's community member of the month. We're looking for those who are leading, who are serving, who are involved in our city. If you have a person in mind, please let us know through our Facebook page, our Instagram feed, our website, or our podcast feed. Just search What's Up Casselberry. We'll announce those results very, very soon. Today's sponsor is We Insure. We Insure cares for your insurance needs, whether it be your home, auto, or business. Josh Hinkle is our local We Insure agent, and he and his wife Kelly serve Casselberry, Winter Springs, and the surrounding area. We Insure serves as an active member of the Casselberry Chamber of Commerce and are committed to excellent customer service. I'll tell you, listener, my wife Becky and I have personally benefited from the work of Josh and the We Insure team. Contact Josh Hinkle with We Insure for all of your insurance needs at 321-422-3255. Thanks, We Insure. Welcome back, podcast listeners. We are so excited to come to the portion of our program where Andy and I take a step back from sharing all the great things that are happening in Casselberry and instead zoom the lens in on one special guest to share about what's going on in their world, their perspective. And we have a very special guest today for you. She is a dear friend of mine and a part of my church, as well as a member and resident of Casselberry. We have author Karim Mackey. And Karim has written recently a book titled Godly Strong, Take Back the Power Abuse Took from You. Karim, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Drew. Hey, Andy.
Thank you for being with us today. I think, Drew, correct me if I'm wrong, you are the first author that we've had on the show. Is that right?
I think that's correct. Yeah.
So you are highly favored. This is we are honored to have you.
I feel honored.
You and I were talking off air about how important it is sometimes to be bored, right? Just so that we can sit and think through things and stimulate some creative ideas, those kind of things. So here's the question. If you had one day with no responsibilities, what would your day look like?
Well, I like watching TV with my husband and maybe going for a ride in his motorcycle. But I'm also very nerdy and I like math games. So I'll just do that.
Math games. Nice. Are you a Sudoku player? That's
my daughter will kill everybody in this house with that.
That's excellent. Well, Karim, you as an author, that's just one component of who you are. You have many interests and passions, things you're just very talented in, one of which, as an aside, Karim is painting a beautiful mural of kind of a jungle garden scene for our children's ministry area of the church. Karim, tell us a little bit about some of your different interests and passions. What kind of makes you up as a person?
Wow, I love a lot of things. So I try to learn as much as I can. Anything that involves art, baking, painting, writing. I really enjoy those things. So I've always done part of the worship team at the church. So I like using that, praise God. But I really like a lot of things like, adventure, and like I have things like on both sides of the spectrum. I can be like very adventurous, and then at times I can be very, let's just be quiet and think.
I think that's a healthy balance. Both of those things are very important. There are some folks who are just go, always on an adventure. And there are some folks who are never on an adventure. And I think life is at its richest when we're able to live in that balance. So I commend you for doing that. I know that one of your interests and passions is serving in the community. And Drew and I know your dad, Raymond Simmons, and we know him because of his involvement in the city with the community garden, which is a fantastic project. We know him as his professional life as a restaurant manager, and just as an engaged citizen. I imagine that some of your community involvement came because of his community involvement. What were some of the ways that he encouraged you to serve and support and to get engaged in pursuits beyond yourself?
Well, my dad is very encouraging and very supportive, and he definitely is a role model for me. He does a lot of things in the community in Casselberry. He does the gardening, the community garden, but he also works in the pantry. And he takes my youngest daughter there and he transmits that to her. And I'm super happy because from a young age, she can see and be part and feel part of it. And that makes her feel important. That makes her feel like you have a sense of purpose. And that I've seen with him, like what you do for others gives you a sense of purpose in a way. And that is very rewarding. Not that you do these things to feel like that, but it's just a consequence of what you do.
I love that. That's a really profound answer. And just to unpack that a little bit, a lot of people find or believe that they found their purpose in what they can do for themselves and in what they can get for themselves. But what you're saying is that we actually find our purpose when we're serving others. Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's something that Drew and I are starting to discover as well on this journey. So, Karim, you are, like I said, our first author, and I've heard it said that everybody has a book in them. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to write a book, right? What does the process look like? What have you learned about yourself through that process?
the process of writing really starts when you analyze yourself and you put in perspective what happened, what made you, what is it that you learn in the process, and that is worth to share with others. In this case, yes, I have a few experiences. Well, this is like my life in a way, but also my main point is not really, oh, this is my life. It's more like, this is what I learned. And this is what I think it's important for people to know. Not about telling the story, but I have to tell the story so people can sympathize and empathize with connect with what's happening, and with the emotions that are part of that process of growing and discovering yourself. I thought it would be easier because I do this for other people. But sometimes when you are in like working mode, you're focused on other people's stories, you want that. It's easier to tell everybody what happened and to organize things. When it's your life, you want to make sure that what you're saying is not going to affect others. It's not going to damage or hurt people. It was a little bit hard to handle, but I made sure that everybody was in the same page and everybody was in agreement that it was important to put out there.
That makes a lot of sense because, the way your book is constructed, you're somewhat autobiographical, but you're also speaking from the perspective of others who have been through difficult circumstances, specifically with abuse. And so, that's a fine line that you had to take in both telling the kind of your own personal truths, but also being cautious and protecting and caring for others well. Well, Karim, speaking of connecting and caring for others, you have had just a unique opportunity to be able to speak publicly on this book, Godly Strong, as well as other subject matters, both in English and in Spanish contexts, from some pretty known individuals and public speakers. Andy and I love talking leadership here on the podcast. What are one or two leadership lessons, quotes, interesting perspectives that you've received from rubbing shoulders with some influential people?
One big thing will be adapting. But adapting is very misinterpreted because people sometimes think that adapting would be accepting everything that's brought to you, and you try to please others and you try to please everybody because you want to adapt to different circles. And that is not really what adapting is about. It's more about, inside us, we have this impulse, something that makes you, like, motivates you, that drives you. So that needs to be in harmony with what's going on out there. Otherwise, you will be either depressed or anxious. So it's a matter of having or conciliate those two things, your internal drives and impulses with the environment out there, and not in a way that try to please everyone, but try to understand your environment so you can function. And you can make your own decisions based on your criteria, but not necessarily giving up your beliefs or things like that.
In many ways, you're talking about taking back control from the abuser in abusive relationships. These kind of conversations, these kind of dynamics are very vulnerable to talk about and to write about as well. And I think both Drew and I, as communicators in our other world as pastors, always try and wrestle down what's the appropriate level of sharing in our communication. And I think you have to go through the same process in a book, right? I want to be honest, I want to be vulnerable, but I can only do that to a certain trust level. And in some ways, that kind of filters down to our relationships as well. Mm-hmm. What would you tell our listeners is an appropriate level of vulnerability with someone that we're trying to support? It
depends who you're talking to. I used to be very afraid of what people would think of me when expressing certain things. And I misinterpret that part of the Bible that talks about the lamp and like that goes, is supposed to go up and not under the bed and things like that. And that everything will be known and all this. And I took that as everything will be known. Like, I can't hide anything because at some point it will be brought up to light. And oh my God, and that terrified. But there's no easy way to talk about certain things. But the pain that is caused by this conversations are the ones, in a way, is what heals you. It's what helps you go further. So it really depends on the person and what you think it will help that person. Although you need to understand why you're talking to this person, and then based on that, decide what kind of information you can give that person. You don't want, if you're talking, and this is like in a case of abuse, you don't want that person to feel sorry for you. If you want to share something that may help this person, you need to keep in mind that the idea is not to make them feel sorry for you so they won't feel sorry for themselves, because it's not going to happen. And you are going to lose that possibility of really helping them because they'll see you as a weak person, because your communication is based on that emotional trigger. It goes straight deep to the limbic system. And that is just doesn't help to the situation, or if you're trying to help, that doesn't help.
Karim, that's so true. This subject as a whole, and really what all of us on this conversation have in common, is we really are about speaking directly to individuals, right? That our messaging is such that, it may have influence in a group setting, but fundamentally we're about looking at the lives of individual people that we care about. And one of the goals of this podcast is to hopefully create an avenue, a resource for people to converse, to have real candid conversations with each other. You mentioned, Karim, you mentioned off of the air that one of the goals of this book was not necessarily to get rich, sell a bunch of copies, but to help the individual. What are you hoping that those who would read this book would learn or be challenged by, or what would you want them to walk away with?
First, that I like people to understand that anybody can go through something like this. I don't like using the word victim, but definitely anybody, it's a possible thing. People sometimes look at me and I'm like, what? You went through what? How? And I explained it in one of the speaking engagements I had. And I told them about how a strong person can feel overconfident in how they will handle the situation and how they will make things change and how they will make this whole fix whatever is going on in the abuse situation, if we're talking about domestic violence. And that little by little really is what tricks you and gets you in the trap. But that is not, although anybody could be potentially exposed to this, you don't have to stay there. There are ways out. And in my case, I named the book Godly Strong because that permanence of God in my life, what I feel that gave me the strength to not only get out, but also see the whole process, what it did to me, and take the information to build something really amazing with my life. I am happy with my life. I can talk about anything in my life and not be sad about even the saddest and horrible situations. I can talk to you in a way that I think it will be productive.
I think there's great integrity in your book because you are living that life of taking back what abuse had stolen from you. Just so our listeners know, the subtitle of your book is Take Back the Power That Abuse Took from You. It's very likely because of the world that we live in and because of the nature of relationships that there are some who are listening to our podcast today who have suffered some kind of abuse and are saying, man, I've been living in this pain too long and I would like to take my life back so that my life isn't defined by that pain and abuse. Very quickly in closing, 2 questions. One, what would you say to that listener? And secondly, how can that listener connect with you?
It is possible. As long as you live, as long as you're living, breathing, even though you feel like you have no power and no strength at all, it is possible to not only get out, but be really strengthened and have a new drive for your life. If you want to contact me, there is a webpage that's godlystrong.com, and the information is there. People can just go there and read about it and read about me.
Absolutely. So it was godlystrong.com. That rhymes. That's like a communicator's dream, right? But listeners, I would encourage you to go check out that webpage and also to check out the book as well. Godly Strong, Take Back the Power That Abuse Took from You. From that website, you can connect with Karim, and I know she'd love to talk with you and help you and walk through with you the journey that you're going on. Karim, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you being on the show, but we appreciate as well your heart to help people who have struggled with abuse. And we appreciate that very much.
Wow, Andy, that was so encouraging and very clear. Karim has quite the gift. She cares about people, and we hope that you, listener, feel cared for and would find her book and her words encouraging moving forward. Andy, with Karim finishing up so strongly, you now have the privilege of following up behind her and having to make quite the splash to leave your mark on the end of this episode. Can you do it?
Drew, make your splash. He knows that I'm going to share a quote from Michael Phelps. He's going to invite me to dive into it as well. Such are his puns. Michael Phelps says this: I think goals should never be easy. They should force you to work, even if they are uncomfortable at times. You know, there's some real wise words of wisdom there as we seek to better ourselves and to grow and strengthen ourselves. It's not unusual for us to make goals, but it's a little bit more unusual for us to make stretch goals, especially when they make us uncomfortable and have to push a little bit further. But friend, I would encourage you today that if you want to get better, if you want to get stronger, or in light of what Karim said, if you want to heal, don't settle for easy. Push into the hard. Stretch yourself, even if it means getting uncomfortable, so that you can become better. I realized that Karim, in her presentation and interview, spoke about some deep things that are very uncomfortable. And sometimes we want to avoid those. But as she said, if we want to get better, if we want to heal, we need to walk into and walk through the uncomfortable.
Andy, thank you so much for those words. And Karim, thank you for your time today. This podcast was produced by Robin Kepi, our producer. We sure hope you've enjoyed our time and your time with the What's Up Casselberry podcast, a casual conversation about our community. I want to give a challenge and a word of encouragement for you listeners. If you've enjoyed your time today, would you leave us a 5-star review? That's the best way that we can rise up the charts. Not that we're about winning any awards or getting a bunch of listens, but we have significant things to highlight and point out about this great community of Casselberry. If you would, subscribe to our podcast feed, like us on Facebook, Instagram, check out our website, all with the name What's Up Casselberry. Until next time, we hope you have a great week.